Hello, ladies. The Big Balboski here. And right now, you're listening to the Matt Madness Podcast.
They talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness.
It's now time to welcome in our guest tonight, current NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, Nick Aldis. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
Well, I just want to say thank you for being committed to giving us your time. I know you have a really busy schedule, and I just want to thank you again.
Oh, no problem.
We really appreciate it. So, with the resurgence of the NWA it's made waves throughout the wrestling world throughout the past year. And the person that revived it was Billy Corgan. Now, as you were exiting Impact, I believe Billy was coming in. Is that correct?
Yeah, we absolutely just sort of crossed paths at the very end there, yeah.
Okay, and that made big news around the wrestling world. He's known to be a passionate wrestling fan, has a mind for the business. What's it been like working with him, and how did he pitch you in the revival of the NWA?
It's been great working with him. He's a very different breed of guy, compared to your typical sort of bullish wrestling guy. There's very little insecurity there, which is like a key, I think, to a lot of the problems that exist in the backstage of a lot of wrestling companies. Is that a lot of the decision makers or people of that nature are sort of either former wrestlers who are a little bit bitter about what they were able to do or not do, or they're people who didn't wrestle or didn't have a passion for the business, and so they sort of try to. It's almost like they deliberately try to sort of counteract that by deliberately going against the grain of what the wrestlers want. And most of the time, the wrestlers are the biggest fans of all, so our instinct is usually right in terms of like what people respond to and what they don't. So being with Billy is different because he has this huge level of experience as far as big time entertainment business, so he understands who to trust and when to know when someone's blowing smoke up your ass and when they're being genuine. And I think that his passion for the business is a huge asset, but he's also self-aware enough and secure enough, more importantly, to let other people make decisions or to take on, my take on things or Dave Lagana's take on things or even other people, involved in the process.
Are there any, in the world of wrestling, it's important to be different, and he's known to be different. Are there any ideas that he has or is pitched to you to make the NWA feel different from everybody else?
Well, I think you're looking at it. We conceived this sort of the 10 Pounds of Gold series and our approach to it. A lot of it happened organically as we were moving forward. We just knew that that's what we wanted to do from the beginning, was that we weren't going to be able to compete with anyone in terms of production value and stuff like that. In the sense of Billy is not about to go and millions of dollars into getting a ring and a soundstage and a roster and a whole infrastructure in place for a brand that doesn't have any value, because you can have all that other stuff, but it means nothing if no one recognizes your brand or equity. So we took the approach of building value and building equity in that brand first, and that's where the 10 Pound series came about, because through discussions in the beginning, I basically said what I miss in wrestling is that competitive rivalry of two guys sort of and the slow build and the collision course to when they finally collide for a big moment and a big title match. And you're seeing that come to fruition with me and Cody at All In.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the 10 Pounds of Gold series. I enjoyed last week's at the Ring of Honor taping, building towards your rivalry. And with that, have you noticed any uptick in the attention or notoriety during your run with the NWA?
Yeah, it grows steadily, and I think that's because the nature of being on YouTube and stuff is that it's there forever. It's there in perpetuity unless you take it down, obviously. So as we level up, is how we like to call it, you know, and obviously to level up to now be working with Ring of Honor, and for me to be involved with All In and all the other things that can hopefully come off the back of that. What happens is then people pay. We draw some of the different audience into what we're doing, and then they go back and retroactively look at the other stuff, and so slowly it builds and builds, and then the next thing you know, you check back on a video from the beginning and you go, oh wow, like this has done like 10 times the viewers that it did before, you know, because people are just going back to it and starting again or binge watching the whole series, and that's the nature of the entertainment business now. You know, that's where we're at. That's what our generation like to do. We like to go back and, like, I do it all the time. I say this to people because there's this sort of impatient nature to wrestling fans. Like, well, when are they going to get a TV show, and when are they going to do this, and when are they going to do that? And I go, well, like, I didn't start watching Sons of Anarchy until it was in, I think, season 3 or 4 was the one on TV. I think season 3 was on TV. Mm-hmm. But I went back once I decided, okay, I'm going to give this thing a chance, I went back and started at season 1. Yeah. And then binge watched all the way up until I was caught up. That's the way we do it now. That's what our generation did. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when new things come along and challenge the status quo of how things, quote unquote, should be done, there's always going to be people who are in their comfort zone of doing things the way that they feel like they should be done, who are going to criticize it and question it. But clearly, we're resonating with an audience, and the audience is growing. So that's all we can ask for at this point.
Yeah, so speaking of the 10 Pounds of Gold series, a few weeks ago, you took on friend of the show, Flip Gordon, with major All In implications. Has there been any match or storyline that really stood out to you as being your favorite or most important?
That's probably the one so far. I mean, obviously, the build to Cody and I is a whole other level. It's bigger than anything. It's one of the biggest things in wrestling. So to go from, you know, obviously the opponents I've had for the NWA have been varied, and they've been some have been on bigger shows, some have been on not so bigger shows. But that was with a purpose, which was to build a sort of a mythology, or, you know, a lore, a story behind the fact that I was traveling the world defending the title like the NWA champion should. And so, yeah, but as far as I think we proved that, you know, me against Flip, I like to have matches like that. I like wrestling guys like Flip. But it's fine to just do a match, but it's a whole other thing to do a match when you actually have a real story and real stakes. Yeah. You know, a match without stakes is just an exhibition, and there's too much exhibition going on right now, in my opinion.
Now, with the idea of the NWA title being defended all over the world, it's a great nostalgia feeling, and it was a part of the title's lineage, and it's continuing that. Was that always the intent for the championship, to be defended in all these different promotions?
I don't know. I think that happened organically, just because I had a lot of existing bookings at the time where I won the championship, and then obviously all of those promoters and bookers suddenly said, "Hey, what do we have to do to make it a title match? Is there some way we can make it a title match?" And at first we were toying with the idea of going, well, maybe we should save it and make it like only a special occasion thing, and then, you know, kind of like we have with Cody, in the sense that, like, well, let's make them wait and we'll do the prize fight thing. And I basically resisted that in the beginning, because I said we can get to that later, but what we have to do now is refamiliarize everyone with this championship, and we need to take it as many places as we can so people get to see it and understand it and appreciate it, and then, you know, we build the value back in it. Then we can, you know, then we start to pick and choose, you know, where title matches happen. And, you know, that's the thing about the NWA World Championship that was always unique, was that it was constantly defended, you know, by a fighting champion all over the world.
Now, the NWA title is arguably one of the top 3 most prestigious championships in the world. What were your thoughts when you became world champion, and what are your goals for the NWA title?
My thoughts were that, you know, that I had a responsibility to make it mean something. That's the same with any championship that I've ever won, you know, and I've won quite a few. My responsibility is always to make it valuable, But the difference with the NWA championship, obviously, is there's all this history. So your responsibility is also extended to honoring the legacy of the people that have held it, who obviously have gone on to become Hall of Famers and legends in our industry, like Dory Funk Jr., Jack Briscoe, Harley Race, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and I could go on and on. That's the way I looked at it. Was I said, I have to do everything I can, and I will, to make this title mean something and to defend it on a stage that it deserves, so that it's honored again in the way that it deserves to be, with with those names attached to it.
Now, as the champion, we always talk on the show. We always talk about how people are waiting for the next boom period in wrestling, and they're waiting for it mainly in WWE. But we all believe that the boom period in wrestling is happening right now with everything outside of WWE, and you're a big part of that. What are your opinions on that?
I think there is definitely an uptick in consumer activity.
Yes.
And that's obviously that's good for everyone. I believe that the people that should be credited the most with that are the Young Bucks and being the elite crew. Marty Scurll's one of my best friends, and all those guys who bet on themselves, which is why All In is called All In. Because it's celebrating a bunch of pro wrestlers who bet on themselves and didn't just seek the sanctuary of, I need to get signed, I need a contract. No, we went, in a way, we all went sort of old school and said, no, I'm going to get over on my own and draw money. And then it's up to me where I go. And if WWE is that place, then go. But it's not a sense of like, well, I'm just going to do everything I can to look attractive to them, so then they can sign me and own me and do whatever they want with me. Or not just WWE, but any company. But obviously, yes. WWE is the big fish, So instead, it was this culture of guys who bucked that trend. And I'm now part of it because I was inspired by them, mm-hmm. And the more people that we can do, that we can encourage to do the same thing, the better the business is going to be. Because at the end of the day, if people are willing to buy a ticket or buy a pay-per-view to see wrestlers anywhere, it's good for everybody. It's good for the whole business.
Yes, no doubt, it really is. Now, you brought up All In. Now you're going to be a part of that. Headlining against Cody for the NWA title. How did you become an All? You kind of hit on it a little bit in the last question, but how did you be an All In come about? I was close with Marty, so we knew about the concept, and I'm trying to remember the timeline exactly, but I just remember that it's a lot of it's serendipity. We were fortunate. Us building this value and creating this interest in the NWA title, which was really starting to get people's attention, coincided with the early conception of All In. And importantly for us, we got Cody's attention, and Cody wants that belt, and we knew that. And then it became like a prize fight, and that sort of dictated how we decided we'd go about our business from now on. Was we said, if you have a championship that people care about, then you can create matches that people care about, and if you can create matches that people care about, then people pay to see them. So we used that asset, and we basically, we knew that. Like once I had it and Cody saw how it was growing and saw how I was starting to turn heads and get people's attention, it got his attention, and he was honest about it and said, "You got my attention. Can we make this match happen?" Now, as one of the headliners defending the NWA title, do you feel any pressure having to deliver in one of the headlining matches at All In?
Of course. There's no way around that. That's the business we're in. But I've been doing this a long time. Like and the reason I have to remind myself sometimes that I'm there for a reason. My work in the last year has shown that I can take any opponent of any size, any stature, any level of ability, and create a situation where people are genuinely compelled and interested in seeing who comes out on top. That's the job of world's champion. And, in that respect, it'll be easy with Cody because the desire is already there. And and clearly I'm not going to take any credit for the sellout because the show sold out in 30 minutes. And yeah, there was only one match announced, but they would have done that whether there was any matches announced or not. But you know, I will say that I believe that I believe it's going to do a very good pay-per-view number. I believe that the amount of people around the world who are willing to pay to stream it and see it is going to be very, very good. And I do think that our build, you know, the work Cody and I have done to create interest in this bout is the main driving force on that element of this show.
All right. Now, I know you're a busy man, so I have one last question. I want to get you out here as soon as possible. So, we're from Philadelphia, and one of our main promotions is Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore. Now, we usually sit in the front row of these shows. In this past November, there was an incident involving yourself, Shane Douglas, and Joey Mercury, where a riot almost started and food and drinks were thrown over the place. What was going on through your guys' mind while everything was happening? And did you think that was going to happen?
No, I mean, I didn't think I was, but as soon as it did, I was happy. I was pleased. I love being part of history-making moments and to be part of something like that. Because you get all these people in the business, you know, from different generations who tell you it'll never be like it was in my day. It'll never be like that again. You can't get heat anymore. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's just and then you do it, and it's like it was a testament to the work we had done to, you know, to get that heat in that building, and I loved it. You know what was great was that it felt great because the fact that we elicited such an organic, visceral response from people, but at the same time I still felt completely safe. Yeah. I looked around, I looked all those people in the eye, and just I knew not one of them was going to do shit.
Yeah, and one of the funny part was when you actually stood in the corner by me, and I just saw you light up because you thought it was so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a real moment. Like, we were like, oh my God, like, did they plan this or what? Because the organic reaction, as you said, like, you can't get that anymore in wrestling. And the fact that they were going to start a riot for Dreamer was amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Well, it just proved that it can be done. I proved, like, you know, this year I've proven a lot of things over and over again that it can be done. People said, go back and look through Google search for like the headlines of when Billy bought the NWA and look at some of the industry experts in their comments like, well, I don't know what the hell he's doing. What's he doing that for? No. You know, like, what a dumb idea. Like, I mean, I just did a thing with Deadspin and they contacted NWA Today to say like, wow, you know, his video did really good numbers, you know, thanks, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I saw an article on Deadspin when Billy bought the company, basically just trashing him, just going like, what an idiot. Like, why did he buy this? It's a dead brand. It's got nothing going on for it, you know? And it's like, we love to prove people wrong. I've defended the NWA World's title this year on 4 different continents in less than a year. And one of them was, one of those defenses was in China, which no one has ever done before. Not Harley, not Flair, not Funk, not Dusty, not any of them. They never went to China and defended it. So, I like being the first. You know, that I can point to in my career as that was the first, and All In will be another. Like I say, I headlined the first All In because this is the start of something way bigger than that. Yeah.
Billy's story with reviving NWA, it's a real inspirational story, and he has the right guy for it. And like you said, as a champion, you and Billy are writing history because, like you just said, you defended the title for the first time in China.
No, it's Billy and Dave Lagana. Dave Lagana is the guy who really deserves the lion's share of the credit for the creative side of the NWA branding and the strategic elements of why the NWA has succeeded so far and why it will continue to grow.
Well, like I said, I want to get you out of here. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down with me and have this interview. So, if there's anything you want to plug, go right ahead.
Well, you can get me on my socials. My Twitter and Facebook are both at real Nick Aldis, and then my Instagram is at Nick Aldis. I have just started a Patreon site where I'm going to be uploading my FSM column before it goes to print, and uploading unique videos just for my patrons, and all sorts of different unique content that is members only, and members only Q&As and advice and things like that. And some of it will be to do with wrestling, and some can be to do with fitness, and virtually anything in between. And it's patreon.com/Nick Aldis.
All right, Nick, thank you once again. Now, 2 of my co-hosts, they will be at All In, so I will make sure they walk up to you and say something. But once again, I want to thank you for your time. And
Make sure they hold up a national treasure sign.
I will make sure that they do that. And thank you once again. Thank you for embracing the madness, and we're looking forward to see you soon. Thank you.
Talking all the day, hop on the top rope, by the land with his elbow. Got him down, put him down right now, hit him with the palm handle. Tuning up the band, y'all don't understand. Fist of Superman, it's a summer slam. Here we go again. Fans marking man, I hate my balls. Shut the Vince McMahon, it ain't safe to land off the cell. Fans love it, ain't hard to tell. Talking madness, awesome, well, what I'm cooking, man.